Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to episode 9 of the What's Your 20 podcast. I'm your host, EPD Special Projects Coordinator Taylor Maris, and joining me this week is AIU and Juvenile Detective Jonathan Oakley. Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on the show.
You do kind of sound like you could have a DJ voice.
No, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
I don't know if you're hoarse right now or if you're like just doing this for the radio.
I don't know.
So let's talk about you. So you grew up around here.
Yeah, I grew up in Chandler.
And then did you have any hobbies growing up or hobbies still?
Well, I attempted to play baseball.
Okay.
But I got hit by the ball more than I actually hit the ball. So I quit playing back in the day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's all right. But baseball is a big hobby of mine.
Yeah.
I collect sports cards and go to a lot of sporting events.
You're a Reds fan.
No.
You're not a Reds fan.
No.
Why did I think you were a Reds fan? You go to a lot of Reds games.
Well, they're close. My wife likes the Reds. So
okay. Maybe I was just taking her side.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a Yankees fan.
That's right.
But they're a little bit farther away, so it's a little harder to drive there on the weekend.
That's right. Well, I don't like either, so go Cubs.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I know how that goes. A lot of eye rolls for that one. But so yeah, that's kind of widely known that you love some baseball in your life.
I do love baseball. Yeah, we were there in St. Louis over the weekend. We saw the Reds play.
Yeah. Who won?
The Cardinals.
The Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's like you. I'm a Cubs fan. I mean, that's closer than Yankee Stadium or whatever it's called. But I don't ever go up to Wrigley either. I just go over to St. Louis to watch them play the Cardinals.
Did you say Yankee Stadium or whatever it's called?
What's it called?
It's called Yankee Stadium.
Oh, it is called Yankee Stadium.
Oh, like, whatever it's called.
I didn't know. I didn't want to sound completely ignorant. I didn't know if that was for sure it or not, but I guess it was. So anyway, this podcast is going off the rails already. So let's jump into your time on the police department. How long have you been on?
This is my 17th year.
17th year?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
I did not think you'd been on that long.
Yeah, it's went by really fast.
I guess it has. And through your 17 years, you worked the majority of it on patrol.
Yes, I'm the newest detective in the office. I've been back there about a year now. So I did 16 years on the street. 15 of those was on third shift.
I was going to say you were a third shifter because we got to ride together when you were an FTO.
Yes.
And that was fun on third shift because that's a totally different way of policing on third shift.
It is.
So on thirds, what made you want to put in to be a field training officer for one?
Well, when I started as a police officer, I was fortunate enough to have really good training officers, mm-hmm. and it really comes down to having that good, training officer or that mentor to kind of teach you mm-hmm. how to do the job because we all start off and none of us know what we're doing.
Sure.
And so you get that good training officer or that good mentor, and you can make somebody better in their career by having good training officers. So, I thought like, well, this is my time to get back to those guys that gave to me mm-hmm. and girls too.
Yeah.
And so like I was one of the older people that put in to be a training officer, but I felt like it was my time to do it.
Yeah. So, that's great. Yeah. I'll never forget when you kind of taught me about knock and talks.
Yeah.
And we got some stuff out of that little apartment building that was the only time I've ever gotten that. We got some bath salts. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first time I saw that, and just by knocking on a door and a guy letting us come in, and there it all was. So you certainly remember certain things from the FTOs that you have on the department, and so there were some great memories that I had from whenever you were training me. So definitely appreciate that. Yeah. So what made you put in for the detective's office?
I felt like I was at a point in my life where I'd done everything I needed to do on patrol. Mm-hmm. I wanted to stay out there as long as I could, and I felt like it was time for me to challenge myself and go to the next level and go to the detective office, and help in a different capacity than what I was doing in patrol.
And how has that been? Has that been an easy adjustment for you, or has it been a learning curve? Or
it's definitely been a learning curve. It's like I started a brand new job.
I bet.
And so it was definitely challenging at first. And like I said, we don't have training officers in the detective office, but most of the guys that are in the office were training officers, and we had great supervisors that helped me get along the way to get everything that I needed to get done.
Yeah. And what's interesting, there's been a lot of cases recently that have been in the news that the Evansville Police Department and the Vanderbilt County Prosecutor's Office have won big cases. And I think what's interesting is not a lot of people realize how much work can go into these cases, and the steps that you have to take to build a case file. So can you kind of briefly explain what it takes to build a case file? Like what all is needed, or where do you start and how does it end? I mean, obviously it ends in court, I suppose, but just kind of talk about those steps.
Yeah. So when you're a patrol officer, you get called to a report run or a crime in progress. And so you're just going to do the initial investigation in the report, and then it's going to go into a computer system that is then forwarded on to each unit on the department, depending on which crime has been committed, and then the cases are assigned to the detectives. The supervisors assign those out. So then if I'm given a case, then I have to start, backtracking and going back, to what the officer originally put down. And then I start collecting the video from, if there's any video, any audio, if there's most of the crimes that we investigate, our crime scene unit will go out and collect either evidence or photos. So I'm going to get those photos for the case file. And then I'm going to start doing like my own interviews, as far as, talking to the victim, if I have to talk to the offender, then I can talk to the offender or any witnesses. And I'm going to put those supplements together, and then we're going to put together the case file. So the case file itself is very detailed, and there's all of the electronic evidence goes into those case files, and then all the supplements that we write up are going to go in those as well. So if you have, a simple shoplifting case from Walmart, you're talking about, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 pages sometimes of
really?
Supplements. Yeah. And
just for a shoplifting.
Yeah. But if you're doing a homicide,
yeah,
which I haven't done one yet, so that's a
good thing. That's a good thing. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah. So, but those can be hundreds of pages.
Really?
Yeah. And when you're collecting video and statements and that stuff, it can be pretty big. We go through a lot of external hard drives in the office.
So, whenever you build that case file, how often do you sit down with the Vanderbilt County Prosecutor's Office? Do you look at that evidence together, or do you send that to them and they look at it, or how does that go to court then?
So if there's any kind of questions during the investigation, we can reach out to the prosecutor's office, and that's what I normally will do to make sure I do everything correctly. But when we put the case file together, it goes to our sergeant.
Okay.
And then the sergeant reviews it, and then it goes to our lieutenant in the office, and then he reviews it. And then it's sent to the prosecutor's office. So then they review it, and if it's a case that we made the arrest, then that'll just go towards the case, like in court. It'll be given up for the discovery. But if it's something that we didn't make an arrest on, the prosecutor's office will determine if they are going to file charges or not. Okay. And then we'll get a warrant for their arrest.
Interesting.
Of the individual.
Does that take quite a while to happen, or sometimes maybe quicker than others, or it just depends? Yeah,
it just depends. I had a shoplifting case last week, and it was less than a day. Okay. But there are some cases, like a burglary I worked last year where, there was multiple places that were burglarized, and so when you put all that together, it took a couple months to put all that together.
Well, and sometimes it seems like people call, like they'll not necessarily complain because they just want an outcome. Like, why is it taking so long? And they just don't understand the process that all of it takes to be able to compile all the evidence, credible evidence and information, and then present that to the prosecutor's office. Yeah. So it could take a while, but we want to make sure we do it right. And that's a big part of why it could take extra time.
Yes.
So also, you are a detective in the Juvenile Unit.
Yeah, I've just been kind of sitting in there a little bit.
Okay, learning a little bit about it.
Them out. Yeah, it's a little different. The case files there are a little different, and they're actually a little bit easier than on the adult side, But yeah, that's it's nice to, get a little diversity and learning different jobs. So if, I'm working a weekend or something and something comes up on a juvenile side, it can help with that as well.
Yeah. Well, and on the juvenile side, there are so many other things too that you have to think about because they're a juvenile. So guardians come into play and parents and taking that into consideration is very important, obviously. So outside of that, we talked with McCormick last month, president of the FOP, but you are also affiliated with the FOP in a special role too. Do you want to talk about that some?
Yeah. So last year, I decided to run for office with the FOP, and I was elected trustee. Mm-hmm. So a trustee's position is we have the executive board, and we have the president, the vice president, treasurer, the secretary, and then the trustees. So the trustees are given responsibilities amongst other things in the FOP. So mine was doing special events, social media.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So
I like that stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work. So I shout out to all those people doing that. But then I decided at the end of the year that I wanted to run for secretary. Mm-hmm. So I vacated my spot as trustee and I ran for secretary and won. And so I'm in, I guess now my 7th month of doing that. So that was a lot different than being a trustee. That we put a lot of work into what we do as an executive board for the FOP. Yeah. And so it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. We've met a lot of good people. We were just recently at the Indiana State FOP conference, and when people find out that we're from Evansville, they always tell us, "You guys have the best ran FOP in the state."
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
What makes them say that? Do you know why?
They really like the way that we really support the officers in the FOP. Having a presence on social media has been big. And, we're very organized in how we do everything. So if we're doing events, we're very organized and we're very informative, and we're not trying to, ruffle people's feathers all the time, but we're just there to support our officers because we are the voice of law enforcement.
Well, and that's what McCormick and I had talked about, that his role, I mean, it's a tough role because he's there to support the membership if they have a grievance or if they have something that they want addressed. But he also works for the police department. So that's kind of a tricky role to play in. But, this year relationships have been great. We've been working together very well. There are times where you on the FOP side will say, hey, you might want to share this on your Facebook, or I'll message you and say, hey, I don't know if you know about this. Or really enjoy that relationship between the FOP and our administration. It's going very well, and like I said, that's a tough position to be in too.
It is, yeah, and we do appreciate that relationship. That's kind of something we haven't had in the past, and so it's really good to have that relationship. Yeah,
and I've noticed, like you said, you're still managing social media a little bit for them, aren't you?
Yeah, I do.
You pretty much do all of it. Mm-hmm. I can tell a difference. Like whenever you kind of do the things that I do with social media, you start to notice other places that are doing really, really good stuff. And you guys are doing really good stuff on your social media platform as well.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's cool to see. And McCormick had talked about some events too. He was talking about trivia, and I was talking about how sometimes you guys will have UFC on.
Yes.
Special things like that. Can you think of any coming up, like September, October, November, like the end of the year?
Trying to think of what. I mean, we always have trivia twice a month. Mm-hmm. And, UFC, we just had that over the weekend. Yeah. And we had that on there. I'm trying to think of, we have a lot of events coming up, but those are for the members. Yeah. Because that's, we really try to do a lot of stuff for our membership. We just got back from St. Louis. We did a bus trip there.
That looks so cool. I love seeing that picture.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And, we were trying to make some relationships with other people in other cities and stuff. So it's nice to get to see some other people from other towns. But we have some member only events coming up. Mm-hmm. But as far as outside the trivia, we also have the treasure hunt.
Yeah, he talked about that. I didn't know what that was. I always get the text, but I didn't know what it was until now. So,
well, it's going to be probably too late when this podcast is aired, but we're getting close to finishing up with the treasure hunt. So it's
really?
Yeah, it's probably going to the grand prize is probably going to hit soon.
Really? So I need to start like actually getting a ticket now. Now is the
you
time I need to be doing it.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to be there on Monday present though, because if you're not there, you only win half of the pot.
Dang.
So.
Well, and then taxes. We already discussed that's a thing you have to do.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. Is there anything about? Well, we were talking about membership, and there's 600-ish people.
There's a little over 650 members.
That's a lot of people to support. Mm-hmm. What are some other ways that the FOP is doing that?
Every year, along with the auxiliary, we do the Easter egg hunt. Mm-hmm. For our kids and our grandkids and our families. We also do the Easter egg hunt with the Evansville Bomb Squad for the blind children. I just saw
scholarships too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do scholarships at the FO or at our lodge. Mm-hmm. And as long as in the state and the national also do scholarships. But we have a Christmas party every year for our kids, and we've done this year during Police Week. We had a sponsor for every night for third shift for meals, because when I was on third shift, you would come in and there would be like a half a container of barbecue sauce. And like,
some onions on the side,
or a little bit of sweet tea or something. And I don't like tea, so so we wanted to make sure that the third shift officers were appreciated too, because a lot of people bring stuff in during the day, and
they do.
And so we don't want to forget about those guys on third shift too.
Yeah, that was really neat. And shout out to all those people too, because that was all either paid for or donated by businesses.
Yeah, that didn't cost anything for the FOP, which actually we did sponsor one night, but everything else was given to us by businesses or local churches.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see that.
So there's a lot of businesses that support the FOP locally. In return, the FOP, supports them. And so we really appreciate what the FOP does for our department and our officers. And not only that, the PAL camp and, the community that it serves, whether it's underprivileged kids or special needs. I do have a question for you, and this might throw you off.
Okay.
So let's think about like high school superlatives. You know what I'm talking about? Superlatives like best laugh, best smile, whatever in the yearbook.
Yeah.
What do you think your superlative would be for the police department? What would people like name you as?
I would say probably like the gesture.
I know, and that's why like I'm not getting that out of you at all. You're very serious in this podcast. You're the jokester of like that's you.
Well, I thought I had to be serious.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This is not a real like I need the real Oakley.
Okay, well, I'll tell you a funny story then.
Well, is it safe for the podcast?
It's safe for the podcast.
Okay, do tell.
All right, so Taylor was the first person I ever trained as an FTO.
And this is going to be about me?
Yeah, it's going to be about you.
Lovely.
And so the day that we first rode together, I had no idea that you lived in the same apartment complex that I did.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you remember this or not, but I think you were getting off work, maybe from third shift, and I don't know what it was, but I was out cleaning my windows off my car because it snowed or iced or something like that. And I remember you pulled up and you jumped out of your car and you're all happy and you're in your uniform and you're like, we're riding together tonight. I'm like, who is this crazy lady? Why did you come to my house? Like,
you thought I just showed up?
Yeah, I'm like, I'll see you at roll call tonight. Why are you at my house?
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember that happening, but I didn't know that that's where your mind went.
Yeah, I was like, wow, like what is going on here? Like,
does she know she reports to roll call and not my home?
We still have like 12 hours before we got to be at work. Why is she in her uniform?
That's so funny. See, this is what we need. We need people like you on the podcast to make people laugh.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, that was fun. I certainly learned a lot from you as an FTO, and you ended up being an FTO for quite a while after that too.
Well, I think I did it for about almost 5 years.
Yeah, a handful of years at least. And that's a tough position to be in.
It's very tough.
It's what's the hardest part, do you think, about being a field training officer?
For me, I just never wanted to see anybody fail. Mm-hmm. And as a field training officer, we can bring anybody in here on the police department and we can train them to do the job. But for me, the biggest thing is you have to have the drive.
Right.
And that's something we can't teach.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the drive or the ambition to be the best, then it's going to be hard to be successful as a police officer. So it really like hurt me when people failed.
Yeah.
Because, you kind of felt like it was kind of, you let them down, but there was just some people that you just couldn't get through to.
Yeah. I get that. Talking about another funny story, I remember we were going to a pretty serious accident. It was very serious, actually, on the Far East Side. And it was like my second or third day working thirds, and I'd never worked thirds in my life. And I remember just driving down the Lloyd in the fast lane, like in a daze, and probably going like 10 under. And you're like, are you awake? Like, it was like we were just hovering. Like, I wasn't there at all, trying to get us to this serious run. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. We're awake. We're just taking it easy getting there. I don't want to be a part of a serious accident as well, clearly, with no traffic.
Yeah, that was a really serious one.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones. It was really, really eye-opening to me. Like, gosh dang, I don't know if I want to see this all the time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about, FOP or detective-wise?
One thing that we were going to talk about is the EVO instructor.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. I totally skipped over it.
That's all right.
Yeah, you are an EVO instructor and like ILEA certified. Talk about that. Share it with us.
So like my biggest accomplishment I feel like on the police department was getting to become an ILEA instructor.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That like to this point right now, that's my biggest accomplishment.
I love that.
Because I became a field training officer, and I decided that I wanted to go to a higher level, and I became an instructor. So that class was a week long, and now it's going to be a 2-week class, and you do a PowerPoint, and it's you got to give a 50-minute presentation to get your
Is that the same one where I've heard like at the beginning of the class you have to talk about 10 minutes about like the color black or an apple? Like you have to talk for 10 minutes about one random thing.
Yeah, you give 3 speeches during the week, and one of them you don't know what you're getting, you draw a word, and you have to talk about it. And so that's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
And there's not a worse crowd ever than a group of police officers.
I'm sure.
It's bad. I could go I can't sing, but I could probably go over to the Ford Center and sing in front of the whole crowd. But, every time I get up to the mic at the FOP, I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
But yeah, as an instructor, then I became an EVO instructor. So EVO is emergency vehicle operations. So I get to teach the new guys how to drive the police cars, and that's so much fun.
I bet.
And so I still have a little bit of hand in on the training, and being in the detective office now, I don't get to work with some of the new guys, so I still get a chance to interact with them.
Yeah.
And meet them, and I always feel special, I guess, when we go to the academy, because I always have like every class I'll have a couple of guys that every time when it's time to go out, they want to ride with me, and so we have a good time, and it's fun to be able to go out and do that driving.
Well, and we have our own police academy here in Evansville, the Southwestern Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. But we have to go up to the academy in Plainfield, which is where it's a much larger academy, because that's where they have the EVO track. We don't have an EVO track here. And so whenever that training week comes along, you have to travel up there and stay up there.
Yeah.
Do you have to stay inside the dorms too?
No.
That's a good thing.
Some of the instructors with Swiley have to stay in there, and they go eat dinner with us. But yeah, we don't stay. We stay in a hotel.
Good for you.
Yeah. But they actually it'll be in October. They're opening a new track.
Oh, really?
It's in addition to the old one. So we're looking forward to that. It's got a lot bigger course.
Okay.
So it should be a pretty fun, trying that new course out.
Yeah.
And
burning some rubber.
Yeah. It's always nice to go up there because we're not really tearing our cars up, so it's kind of nice to just go up
That's
there.
True.
They're all old police cars, and we try not to tear them up, but occasionally there's little accidents. Nobody's really ever gotten injured.
Well, and speaking of accidents and other people's cars and tearing them up, slow down on the Lloyd Expressway, people.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like we were just talking about that off mic, and just even driving in a marked police unit, there are people flying past me. It's like, why? Why? Yeah. But I mean, there's going to be all that construction that's going to start happening for the Lloyd for You project. It's already happening out in the county, out by USI, and so that's going to change a lot of things on the Lloyd Expressway. And so a lot of that's hopefully to take out of accidents that happen, especially around Van Avenue. But yeah, just slow down in the city of Evansville.
I agree.
And you said that a lot of accidents are caused because of backing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of accidents, internally that are caused from backing because we kind of forget sometimes to pay attention when we're backing up. I mean, people have cameras,
right,
in their car. And, I was training an officer, and he backed into a semi, and he said, I'm really sorry. He goes, your car doesn't have a backup camera. And I was like, no, but it has this big window that you can look out the back of and see that there's a semi behind us. But, the backing stuff is one of our big nemesis on the police department.
Well, and I'm sure that's, kind of probably everyone, not just necessarily on the police department, but just paying attention to where you're backing and putting the cell phone down, because it is illegal to have the cell phone in your hands while you're in the car here in Indiana. So being mindful of all that. So anything else you'd like to talk about since I skipped over your EVO?
Oh, no.
I feel bad. That's your biggest accomplishment. And I just cruised right over it. No pun intended. See what I did there? That
was good. No, this career has been very rewarding. And I've met a lot of good people along the way. I've been able to go to places I never would have been able to go as a civilian. I remember another story of we thought there was a burglary at Bossy Field.
Is this a you and me story?
Yes.
Oh, I do remember this one.
And we were clearing the stadium, and me being a new training officer, I wasn't used to having basically a kid with me to watch. I had to watch over as a kid. So I thought Taylor was behind me, and I went into the dugout.
No, Taylor was clearing the stadium like she should have been.
You were like...
Who was the kid in this situation? Let's see.
Well, I agree with that, but I was supposed to be watching Taylor. She was at the top of the stadium or something, but I remember I came running out of the dugout, and I hollered, "There's no crying in baseball." And I think Taylor got some extreme speed, because you ran down the steps so fast, and you're getting ready to
I thought you were being hurt,
tackle somebody.
Yeah.
And you're like, was there a homeless person in the dugout? And I was like, no. Have you ever seen a league of their own?
I didn't hear what you said. I just heard you screaming, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get over there, because I'm new, and I got to make sure my FTO's okay, and yeah. It was fun. We had some good laughs on thirds, obviously, and you take that into the detective's office with you as well. So you bring the laughs with you, and which is really needed in this profession. So
it is, yeah.
Having
we definitely have to laugh, because I see sometimes where people are upset because they see officers that are laughing on a scene, and they're not laughing at the situation.
No.
We have to kind of use humor within ourselves to
separate ourselves from some bad things. Yeah. But yeah, and that's all great stuff and great information. Thank you for being on the podcast and talking about all the things that you do for our agency and for the FOP. And thank you for tuning in to the What's Your 20 podcast. You can tune in again on August 17th to hear from Chief Smith to give an update on what's been going on since his last podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow our Spotify and YouTube accounts to stay up to date on all podcast releases. Have a good weekend.